Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at this webinar on working at Shamiri. So today's webinar will be hosted by a few of us at Shamiri. The three of us who will be hosting the webinar will be myself. My name is Tom. I am one of the co-founders of Shamiri. And I will be joined in this webinar today by Hilda Nyereso, who is our COO, as well as Rahim Daya, who is the Chief of Staff. At a high level, this is the roadmap for today. We will talk first about Shamiri Institute. This presentation initially will focus on a little bit about the founding story of the organization, a little bit about what we do as a company and the culture of the organization. At this point, we will pivot more into the HR and recruitment process, where we'll talk about the structure of our team, an overview of our recruitment process, and a nuts and bolts, or just a walkthrough about how you can navigate this recruitment process. By the end, we hope to have a question and answer session. Great. So to kick us off, we're going to play a short video. The median age across sub-Saharan Africa is 19. In no other part in the world do you have more than half of the population so young. The lack of access to robust mental health care is something that strikes me as a roadblock to young people being able to succeed. Shamiri means thrive in Kiswahili. The Shamiri Institute was founded to develop, disseminate, and scale tools and interventions that can help young people thrive.
The mission of Shamiri is to provide at-risk, low-income youths with a chance to really achieve their life outcomes through our interventions.
Our flagship program, called Project Thrive, is a simple, scalable, stigma-free, and school-based mental health program that has been shown to improve mental health by reducing depression and anxiety symptoms.
The impact of our programs improves students' academic performance, their character strengths, and basically meets better their social life.
Will really help the youth by getting into their minds and knowing what they think, making them feel that someone actually cares about their mental health, and this in turn will help them improve in even other aspects of their lives.
Thank you guys so much for coming. My name is Tom. In case we haven't met, I just wanted to really welcome you guys to this event.
I happen to have this friend who was struggling with mental health issues, depression to be precise, and it got to a point where she even got suicidal. I couldn't know how to handle it. So I think Thrive Fellowship is a good opportunity for me to learn more about mental health and how to help people get through it, because for me it's very important to actually offer solutions to people.
Teenagers, they are afraid to talk about what they feel. I want them to be free to share what they feel, and also know that there is a place where they can go and get help and have someone to talk to when they have problems.
Our character, our personality, traits really determine a lot about how we experience the world. It determines how we respond to adversity, when we fail, how we react to success. We try to teach young people what we call a growth mindset. So rather than thinking about their personal traits and attributes as being fixed, we try to train young people to think about these attributes as being malleable and things that they can change through effort. Another part of our intervention is practicing gratitude. And what we know from the science is folks who are more grateful, they tend to be happier, to be healthier, to have better relationships, etc. And especially in low resource contexts, often we're working with young people in such circumstances that they don't see or they don't think that there is anything that they can be grateful for. But what we try to train them is to notice even small things in their life that they can be grateful for. That helps make them feel like they belong, make them feel like the people who care about them. Whenever we have to make decisions in difficult circumstances, we are often guided by our values. And so by training young people to, whenever they are facing difficult circumstances, reflect on their values, that also just expands the toolkits of resources that they have.
The site of our school is in Kibra slums. Most of the students we teach, they're coming from poor backgrounds. So we are trying to maintain them in school. It has really impacted on their culture, the way they even articulate themselves, the way they move around, the way they interact with other people, the way they also interact amongst themselves. It has really improved.
People say Africans don't get depressed. I can't be depressed because I am an African. But the truth is, there is depression. People are anxiety in Africa.
Mental health is stigmatized in Kenya and many communities around the world. For example, in my tribal mother tongue, there is no direct word for depression. So if you are going to diagnose someone with depression, you're diagnosing something that they don't really know about and can't really, comprehend. Our work is not about labeling you. Our work is how to help you improve your social connectedness, your optimism, happiness, sense of purpose. And in the same time, if you're also struggling with the symptoms of depression and anxiety, our programming is designed in a way that it helps you with those symptoms. But at its core, it's about human flourishing.
In my ideal world, people would talk freely about mental health. Mental health care would be readily available for people who need it. Basically, there would be acceptance, not judgment.
The Templeton World Charity Foundation has been one of our biggest partners and supporters. Through this ongoing support, we've been able to work with the partner, train them, have them implement this project on their own, and collect data. And so for us, scaling up with partners is going to be a big part of our push to reaching 1 million youths in the next 5 years. This year, we are doing a pilot with a group in Lithuania. In Lithuania, they have one of the highest young adult and teenage suicide rates in the world. We have had a similar trial as well in Morocco and Uganda. Our work is very simple. What we have is almost like a template that needs to be adapted and fine-tuned to different geographies, but we think that it is a template that can be used around the world. That we have such a young and youthful population in Kenya is something that I find really exciting. And I think that it is this young generation which is going to take that final leap and step into helping Kenya and similar countries actualize their potential. And that Shamiri can help realize that potential is something that really keeps me going and inspires me about the work that we're doing at Shamiri.
Great. So the first part of our conversation today will be, painting a picture of who we are at Shamiri. We're going to do it in 3 different buckets. The first bucket will be a quick overview of the history of the organization. The second bucket will be an overview of what we currently do at the organization. And the third will be an overview of what the culture and the values of the organization are. Great. So we founded Shamiri in 2018, and the idea initially was a very simple idea. How can we secure the future of Africa's youth? You know, we at Shamiri think that the greatest challenge of our generation, especially in Africa, is the very youthful population. In this continent, half of the population is age 19 and below, and and almost 70% of the population is under the age of 35. And so we do have a really great work on our hand to ensure that as many of these young people as possible can be able to actualize their potential and really realize the goals and the visions of their lives. And in 2019, we refined our approach to doing this by adopting what we call a science-based approach, and we'll be talking a little bit about this when we talk about the structure of our teams. So at Shamiri, we are a really research-based organization, so we try to develop interventions that can be effective for people in Kenya and around the world, but we wanted to do this by ensuring that these interventions are science-based, science-driven, and are effective. Finally, we started working here full-time in 2021. So before 2021, we were mostly based in the US, but in 2021, we moved our office to Nairobi, and we moved here on a full-time basis. So right now, the whole of our teams are based here in Nairobi, and we've been growing from about 2 people in 2021 to now a team of 25 full-time staff and 10 part-time staff. Right now, the main goal of the organization is preparing to scale. We want to achieve impact at scale, and we have a really ambitious goal of doing that. As you saw on the video, our goal is to reach 1 million people in the next 5 years, and that is one of the reasons why we're spending a lot of time in really building out our team, really focusing on recruitment, because we're going to really need all of you to really join us in this journey of achieving maximum impact at scale. So what do we do at Shamiri? First of all, Shamiri is a Kiswahili word which means thrive. The general idea behind our work at Shamiri is that by making mental health affordable and personalized for young people, we are building a future where these young people can thrive. So as all of you know or may know, mental health issues are very widespread, and they are left largely untreated. And because they're not left untreated, they prevent many young people from flourishing. According to our data at Shamiri, about 1 in 2 young adolescents in Kenya struggles with some sort of mental health problem. Yet we don't have enough caregivers for young people who are struggling with mental health problems. In Kenya, for example, we have only 1 mental health expert for every 1 million Kenyans, and only 2 child and adolescent psychiatrists serving the whole country. So this is the problem that we're trying to solve, and we think this problem is very, acute, because half of the population, as I mentioned earlier, is under the age of 20. So we do this through this idea of tiered lay psychotherapy. So I'm going to just briefly explain what this tiered lay psychotherapy means. So traditionally, when you're struggling with a mental health problem, you see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But as I've mentioned, psychologists and psychiatrists are very few. And even when you can access them, they're very expensive. So through tiered psychotherapy, what we do is we combine lay providers. These are individuals who have no experience, and all they have is a high school degree, all the way to individuals who have some sort of a mental health experience. So people who've done some either diploma in counseling or social work, as well as working directly with licensed psychologists and psychiatrists. So what we're doing, in other words, is we're expanding the pool of caregivers by having people be able to access mental health, from individuals with this high school degree all the way to individuals who are licensed psychiatrists and therapists. And so we have developed a platform that we call Anansi, and you can learn more about Anansi on our website. And Anansi really goes into the details of how we implement our work. But at a high level, how this work is we develop and we implement interventions through this tiered caregiving model. And these interventions are primarily delivered in secondary school settings, as you can see in these photos. And most of them are, group-based, even though we do allow people to get escalated care ranging from one-on-one therapy to being even matched with MD psychiatrists and clinical psychologists. And so the theory of change, the idea behind, kind of what we're doing is that if we can train young people to become lay providers and clinical supervisors, they will effectively deliver this low-touch psychotherapy within the communities. And the consequence of this is that young people will thrive. And as I said, we're a very evidence-based organization, and we've tested our model across multiple clinical trials, and we're very confident about this model. And that's why we're really trying to scale it up to 1 million youths within the next few years. Now, to kind of the important part of our conversation today. So when we're recruiting people at Shamiri, we really think a lot and we really care specifically about culture. For us, culture is very important, because we want to create a space where all Shamirians want to work and love working. And so we have built a culture that we think, allows us to be able to attract and maintain, really talented people like all of you, and to build a space and a community that everyone wants to work in. So there are 6 pillars of this Shamiri culture. So the first pillar is this idea of values. So we believe that values should lead the way, and I'll briefly mention some of our values. Another part of our culture, which I want to also really reiterate, so we are a high performance culture. So what this means is that we set very high goals and very high expectations for all of us, and we really expect everyone to be able to deliver and perform to these very high standards and very high bars. And this, as you will learn today, is also reflected in our recruitment process. So our recruitment process is a little bit demanding and requires a lot from people. And the reason why that is the case is because we want to, maintain this high performance culture from the word go. The third pillar is this idea of autonomy. So we want people who adopt what we call an entrepreneurial leadership mindset. So we give you the freedom and autonomy to do your work. No one at Shamiri, Shamiri is not the kind of organization where you have a boss who is on your head all the time, looking at everything that you do. We give you the freedom and the autonomy to be able to do things on your own. And we expect that you can be able to do these things on your own to a high level of performance. And the way we practice this autonomy is by this idea of goal alignment. So we ensure that everyone across the organization, across all teams, all parts of the organization, is aware of the overall goals of the company, as well as the individual goals that they have to do in order for the organization to meet these high level goals. And then we also focus on context and not control. So what this means is we don't want to control people. We want to give them the contextual information that they need to be able to do their jobs as they should. And finally, we focus on this idea of rewarding, developing, and promoting. So what do we mean by this? We believe that if you're a high performance individual, you need to be rewarded for that. We need to also ensure that we have enough development opportunities for you to be able to reach your full potential. And if you are developing, one of the ways of rewarding you is by promoting you within the organization. So we do have a very fast ladder within the organization. It is not rare for people to join from interns and to become senior associates or even team managers within 1 to 2 years. And that is because of our focus on rewarding, developing, and promotion. At a higher level, the values of our organization are: 1, being a data-driven organization; 2, being a grassroots organization; 3, being a growth-minded organization; 4, practicing nimbleness. And what we mean by nimbleness is we are not an organization where you are defined by your job description. We think that everyone can and should do everything within the organization. Other core values are clarity and transparency, collaboration, hard work, and we also try to, embrace fun within the organization. At this point, I will hand over to my colleague, Rahim.
Great. Hi, everyone. Really fantastic. We have so many people joining us that want to learn about Shamiri and our recruitment process. I'm going to be talking about the 4 teams that we have at Shamiri. So those are the programs, research, innovations, and operations team. and I'll go into a bit more detail about what each team does and the various roles within each team. So first we have the programs team, which is primarily made up of trained and accredited mental health practitioners. And their role and goal is around building our 3-tier model to ensure that there's a sustainable supply of caregiving in the present and in the future. So the 3 buckets of work that they do is split into one, which is recruitment and training. So we need to ensure that we're able to recruit for each of the 3 tiers of our model. So that's the lay providers, clinical supervisors, and clinical experts, and in turn train them so that they're able to deliver our interventions across high schools in Kenya. The second bucket of work for the programs team is around development. So associates and interns are tasked with writing evidence-based intervention protocols and developing manuals that we use internally, as well as with others to inform how we go about training and delivering interventions. And finally, as mental health practitioners, the programs team is able to deliver clinical work and offer psychosocial support to those in need of clinical care. So the various roles we have within the programs team, we have a programs manager that oversees all the programs related activities, and they oversee our associates. So currently we have associates leading each of the 3 work streams for the teams. So again, that's around recruitment and training, development, and clinical work. And then finally, we have programs associate interns. So they support our associates with program planning, logistics, and implementation. So the second team we have at Shamiri is the research team. And as Tom mentioned, we are a data-driven organization. And so the research team is really crucial to make sure that our programs are effective and informed by the data that we gather. So the first bucket of work that this team does is around proposals and approvals. So they will formulate study designs for various programs that we do and figure out what's appropriate in what we're trying to deliver, and then apply for regulatory approvals from universities and governments. The second bucket of work is around monitoring and evaluation. So the team will identify appropriate measures and carry out data collection, cleaning, and analysis for the programs that we implement. And lastly, we want to be able to capture the findings in a concise and digestible manner. So the research team is charged with scientific writing and developing of manuscripts to allow us to share our work with a wider audience. So the roles within the research team, we have a research manager that oversees all of our research projects, from planning, facilitation, and delivery of these projects. Our research associates lead on study design, formulation, and development of monitoring and evaluation protocols that we try to follow to a T. And then lastly, we have research associate interns that support our associates with data collection and cleaning as well. The third team at Shamiri is the operations team, which is headed up by my colleague Hilda, who you'll be hearing from shortly. So the operations team focuses on building infrastructure and systems that will allow us to scale in the future. The first bucket of work they do is around financial management. So that's building of budgets and cash flow models to ensure that we're running the organization in a sustainable way. The second is around supply chain management. So we're establishing procurement systems, as well as the operations team manages our relationships with suppliers from all the way from sourcing to contracting. And then lastly, we want to make sure that the workplace, our workspace in Nairobi runs in an efficient manner. And so the operations team makes sure that the workspace does so. So we have our Chief Operating Officer, Hilda, who you'll be hearing from, who oversees the team's work. We have a finance and operations associate that leads on supply chain management and procurement. And then lastly, we've just hired an accountant that will be leading on the development of budgets for the organization, as well as specific projects that we're running. Lastly, we have the innovations team, which is the team that I'm in. And the innovations team really thinks about the future and where the organization is headed. And we want to be able to achieve our ambitions quickly, but in a sustainable manner. So the first bucket of work we do is around sustainable scaling. So we want to be able to expand our reach, one, by reducing our costs, but also engaging in business development to be able to work with more schools and find more partnerships with implementing partners to expand our reach across the whole country and hopefully across different countries going forward. Partnerships and communications. So we are actively trying to build relationships both in the private sector as well as with government ministries. And we also want to be able to communicate with the wider public so that they're aware of all the work that we're doing. And lastly, around scientific innovations. So this is around being able to determine new directions for the organization to go in to make sure that we're on the cutting edge when it comes to the mental health space. So there are a variety of different roles within the team, including my own role, which is Chief of Staff. But business development, that role is really charged with revenue generation, whether that be finding partners or focusing on fundraising from various funders from around the world. We have our product manager, who's responsible for product planning, production and marketing. So right now the product manager is working on our Shamiri Academy, which is going to allow us to build competencies for mental health professionals, but also for the wider public and create awareness about mental health. And then lastly, our social media manager, who handles all of our communications on various platforms, again, to engage the wider public with our work. And I think I'll pass on to Hilda, who's going to give an overview of our recruitment process from a high level.
Great, thanks, Rahim, and thanks, Tom. So I'll walk us through quickly our recruitment process. And I think it's just in line with one of the key pillars that Tom mentioned earlier, which is reward, develop, and promote. Whenever we do have vacancies, the first priority is obviously given to internal candidates. And so we post internal advertisements where staff have the opportunity to apply for any vacant positions. Where this is not possible, external job posts will be posted through our official platforms. And I am sure some of you have seen this through our websites, our social media pages, etc. Internally, we do have recruitment teams or recruitment heads who are hiring managers. Oftentimes, these will be department heads who will oversee the applications that will be coming through for the advertised job positions. And so there are various steps that we will be going through even as we receive your applications. And first is just to encourage every applicant or potential applicant to always submit your application through the official platforms. There are instances where even though posts have been posted on our official pages, we do get private emails. And so just to let you know that officially, any applications that come through our platforms are the ones that are going to be taken through the next stages. Secondly, you will be prompted to undertake a standardized test, and you will get prompts or emails through your official email addresses that you have given either in your resume or in your application letters. Sometimes these may be followed up with take-home tests with very clear instructions, and just to encourage you again to, if you do get take-home assignments, to do this in time and to submit them as soon as possible. After the test, candidates will, if they or if you do meet the pass mark, you will be invited for a brief telephone interview. Usually this lasts between 20 to 30 minutes, after which candidates will be shortlisted and selected for on-site interviews, which we call Super Day. And basically Super Day interviews are just essentially to check whether you are a culture fit for our organization and vice versa. But we also want to ensure and to check really whether what you have posted on your profiles, on LinkedIn, on your resumes, in your application letter matches actually with the person that we meet on the very day that you come for Super Days. Upon successful interviews, whether you've gone through telephone and on-site, interviews, you will be sent or you will receive offer letters detailing the next steps and the specifics of what the offer entails. We'll then complete this doing background and legal checks where necessary and reference checks. So be sure to always provide your reference checks and your reference contact information even as you send your applications through. And then finally, you will go through contracting, and eventually you become one of us, and we'll call you a Shamirian. And that's it for me. So, I think I'll go back to Tom or Rahim.
Yeah, it's me quickly. So I'll quickly run through the nuts and bolts of navigating our platforms, and then we can get into some Q&A. So the primary platform we use for recruitment is called Jazz HR. So when you're applying for a role, there are two websites that you can use to access our current openings. One is our own website careers page, so shamiri.institute/careers, and the other is our Jazz HR page, which is shamiri.applytojob.com. So those are easily accessible through our LinkedIn page or through our website. So when you see an opening that you like, you'll come to this page and see one on the left that you might like, for example, social media intern. You will click on it and there will be a number of fields that you have to fill in. So there'll be your name, email address, etc. But some of the more important fields are put on that slide there. So you'll need to attach your resume as well as paste a cover letter. And I'd encourage you to put some thought into your cover letter because we do read them and we want to make sure that you're excited about joining Shamiri, not just any other organization. And then we have some questions really to get an idea of what your skill level is for the position that we're recruiting for. So after that stage, as Hilda said, you may be invited to do an assessment. So you'll get an email like this from our testing provider, which is called Test Gorilla. So you'll say, great news, you've been invited to do an assessment. There'll be a button you can click to complete the assessment. And so it will look something like this. It's usually between 30 minutes to an hour. And these are multiple choice questions that you'll have to complete. For each section of the standardized testing, there'll be a couple of practice questions first that look something like this to be able to familiarize yourself with the format before you actually do the actual questions. And I think on the next slide, we have an example of what the questions might look like. So as I said, it's multiple choice, usually 4 options. So this is around numerical reasoning and finding the next number in the sequence, which is 193. So if you ever have any issues navigating either of these platforms, you can email careers@shamiri.institute and there'll be someone will be happy to assist you with any technical issues you're having with either platform.
Great. Thank you so much, Rahim and Hilda, for walking us through this. I think at this point we are going to start, kind of opening up the conversation for the rest of us. And I think as we wanted to start there, as we welcome in questions, I just wanted to highlight at least the top three, kind of pitfalls that we see when people receive applications. And Rahim and Hilda, if you also have other things that you want to add to this will be great. After that, we'll open up for Rahim to basically moderate the Q&A session. So there are three things which happen a lot of the time, and then some of them have been already mentioned by either Rahim or Hilda. So the first is people don't apply through the Jazz HR platform. So this happens in two ways. One is people applying directly via email. So you send an email either to the careers email or to someone directly at Shamiri. And the second is you see the job posting on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has this easy apply feature, and you just do easy apply. So if you do those two things, there's a 99% chance that no one at Shamiri will be able to read your application. So that's why we're really, emphasizing the need of using the Jazz HR platform. So why do we do that? The reason why we do that is the Jazz HR platform allows us to be able to internally manage and coordinate applications, and also to do this in a fair manner. So what do I mean by doing this in a fair manner? So let's say you emailed me a job application and I didn't see it, or I read it and I didn't like it. I can just not do anything about it and no one will know. But if you apply on the Jazz HR platform, the whole recruitment team is made aware of this, because we do have a very holistic application process, and most of our applications are read by more than one person. And so using this platform really helps. The second is most people sometimes apply, quote unquote, for the sake of applying. So let's say you have one cover letter and you're attaching that cover letter to all jobs that you're applying for. So sometimes we may find someone who has addressed the cover letter to the wrong company. So maybe they're applying for Safaricom for a research role, and then they see a research role at Shamiri and they also apply for that role, but they forget to change to address it to Shamiri, or even they forget to change the name of the role that they're applying for. So this indicates to us that you're not really serious about this role, and you're not really serious about working in the organization, and you're just doing this for the sake of just applying to multiple roles. And the third thing is most people have typos or grammatical errors either in their CVs or in their cover letters. So maybe you're writing your CV, but you didn't proofread it, or you're writing your cover letter and you didn't proofread it. And so there will be typos there. And these typos, what they do is they indicate to us that, one, you don't have an eye for detail. And because of that, we may, not strongly consider your application. So in my experience, those are some of the three pitfalls that people have. I'll hand over to Rahim and Hilda if you also have others that you want to share.
I think I'll just share one, and this is something that I've seen where if we have several job posts open, so a research intern, a finance associate, research manager, where one candidate will apply for all these jobs and also fail to highlight, strengths and, just accompany the various job applications with the necessary either requirements or documents. So my advice is, whenever there are several job posts that are open in a particular organization, and at Shamiri, for instance, please apply for the one job post for which you feel that you would be a strong candidate and for which you fully qualify.
Great. So I think we'll move on to the Q&A if you want to moderate that, Rahim.
Sure. So some of the themes that are emerging, how long does it take for one to get a phone interview after the standardized test? And subsequently, how long does it take for feedback after the phone interview? So for that, to answer that question, I think it depends on how many candidates apply for the role. So at times we have over 2,000 applicants for a role, and when that happens, it can take more than a week for us to go through applications and go through test scores and go through take-home tasks to be able to assess them and figure out who's going through to the next round. But we do try to move quite quickly throughout the process. So you shouldn't be waiting more than 2 weeks at any stage of the process to hear from us. Do practice questions count to the final score of your assessment? No, they don't. Don't worry about that. It's just for you to get a feel of how the assessment works. Do we inform candidates in case they do not meet criteria or pass tests? Yes, you should receive an email from us saying that if you don't move on to the next stage, that you haven't moved on to the next stage. So we try to be quite prompt with that. And we also are open to providing any feedback for your application. So for example, if you do a test gorilla assessment and we email you that you haven't proceeded to the next round, but you want to know what your scores look like, we'd be happy to share with you what your scores were for each test that you took. Another question emerging: do you offer internship opportunities for final year students who are about to complete their undergraduate degree? Yes, we do. So I think we ran through some of the roles that we have in each of the teams, and each team does recruit for interns quite actively. A few people who have applied to roles and done assessments but haven't heard back yet. I'm sure you'll hear back in the next few days. We're currently recruiting for 3 positions. So that's a tech product internship, a social media internship, and a finance and operations internship. So those roles were recently opened. So if you haven't heard back yet, it's probably because you're among the first to apply to those roles. Do we consider physical applications? No. So our preference is for you to use our Jazz HR recruiting platform as we laid out in the presentation. That way we have our full recruiting team looking at your application rather than a physical application which can get lost or just find its way to the back of someone's priority list at Shamiri. When you apply through our Jazz HR platform, it makes sure that we can have all of our applications in one place and that there's no bias in how we are processing applications. Can someone volunteer at Shamiri for experience purposes? So right now, I don't think we have any volunteering opportunities. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom and Hilda.
Yeah, no, at the moment we do not have any volunteership positions open, but when we do have, and usually this is through either the programs or the research teams, this will be posted sometimes internally or sometimes through our external platforms, but at the moment, no.
Cool. Another question: what is the organization's remote working policy? So at present, we have 6 work from home days a quarter. So the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month is an optional work from home day. So staff can either choose to come into the office or work from home on those days, provided that they have a good quality internet connection at home. So our policy is informed from experimenting with work from home policies in the past, and we feel that this current policy fits our needs best at present. Just to clarify, our headquarters is in Nairobi, and our offices are in Kilimani in Nairobi. How does one get to become a Thrive Fellow? So it's in a similar manner to full-time positions that we offer at Shamiri. We are, though, expanding how we go about recruiting Thrive Fellows this year. So it will not just be through Jazz HR as our recruiting platform, but we will be actively recruiting through other means as well. So I think we will be recruiting for Thrive Fellows in 2 or 3 months' time, ahead of which we will make clear through our website and social media how we're going about Thrive Fellow recruitment. We've got a question about whether Shamiri works on weekends. Very rarely is that the case. And if it is the case that you need to work on a Saturday, for example, you get an extra day of annual leave that you can exercise in lieu of working on working on a Saturday, for example.
Yes, I think once someone is asking if the test gorilla assessment affects whether people are given take-home tests. Yeah, and I think the answer for that is yes. So we normally do have an internal pass mark, quote unquote, or internal threshold that individuals have to, kind of meet for them to move on to the next part of the assessment, which is the take-home exercise. Yeah, so one of the high-level thing is, as you've realized, like our recruitment process is, pretty robust and rigorous. We've designed it to, take us about a month, sometimes as long as 2 months, to have a role filled out, and we do recruit actively. So if you've been following us on social media over the past year, almost every other month we have a new or multiple new, kind of openings which are there. And we do take this, quite rigorous approach to the interview process, mostly because of the culture of the organization. So we just want to ensure that someone is a good fit for the organization. Second, that someone can also be able to get an opportunity to know if the organization is also a place where they will want to work at. Is your recruitment process inclusive and equitable? Sex, race, etc. So we do consider ourselves a very equitable organization. That said, when we are recruiting, we don't recruit for sex or race in particular. We try to recruit the best people for each of the different roles. That said, we do have a pretty, kind of diverse team. Most of our team are female. We have multicultural, multilingual people from different countries and races within Shamiri, but we do not have, for example, a quote unquote an affirmative action or a similar program. We want to hire for the best people, regardless of their gender or sex, for example. Internships last for 6 months, but it's divided into 2 buckets. The first part of the internship lasts for 3 months, and depending on performance, people can be allowed to extend up to 6 months. For all of our interns, and this is why we take the internship program really seriously, we give them a fair opportunity to get full-time roles within the organization as part of our reward, develop, promote agenda. So we ensure that we take in interns who we think can become full-time team members, and we have a very clear path for them to do that across 6 months. Cool. So I think we're going to start, kind of wrapping up the conversation today. If you still have questions, please, kind of feel free to type them onto the chat or use the link. We'll try to answer some if we have, and we also have all of your email addresses. So we will be sending out a follow-up email that will have more answers and points about the recruitment process. We also hope to be doing this webinars more regularly, so please sign up for our mailing list if you haven't. And we'll be doing not just this type of webinars, but also webinars with interns, associates, middle and senior leadership as well, just so that people can get a chance to have a full view of where we are and who we are as an organization and what it means to be part of this team and to work at Shamiri. So I'm just going to share my screen again, and just encouraging all of you to sign up for a mailing list, follow-ups on social media. Finally, we're just going to play a very quick culture video. So this is a video that can give us, can let us know a little bit about what a day at Shamiri looks like. Yes, encourage us all to just stay for this very brief 2-minute video.
Shamiri Institute is a youth-led organization that champions mental health well-being for young people by developing data-driven tools that enable young people to actualize their life outcomes. My name is Hilda Nyareso. I am a psychologist. I am passionate about mental health, and here at Shamiri Institute, I am the Chief Operations Officer.
My name is Tom. I am the co-founder and CEO of Shamiri. I think culture is very important for us at Shamiri, and I think, as like one of the leaders of the organization, I think the most important thing, that a leader can do is to set the culture of the organization. So the 3 pillars, behind, kind of like the culture of Shamiri. And the first pillar is a shared purpose. The second, kind of like pillar of our culture is creating opportunities for shared vulnerability. The third pillar of our culture is this idea of creating a sense of belonging. It allows us to move beyond just being a team or to move beyond just being a department or organization and closer to almost being a family.
Shamiri is an exciting place to work. We work with young people who are excited and passionate about mental health.
It's an organization that is for youth, by youth, and governed by youth. Essentially, it's a place where you can be whoever you want to be. You can find your own space throughout your career, and you can fashion your own pathway.
My journey at Shamiri started as a Thrive Fellow. So the fact that over the years I've been able to grow from being a Thrive Fellow to eventually being a software developer, then that means that in everything that you do, as long as you want to grow, then there's always like an opportunity to grow.
We're the only organization that's been able to scale up to this extent in 3 years. Our evidence suggests that we have been alleviating depression and anxiety for youth across Kenya from and since 2018 and 2019.
At Shamiri, we don't just look at growth, our growth mindset for the individuals that work here, but for the institution as well. We want these mental health interventions and tools that we are developing to reach all the youth in the global south.
I'm really excited by the prospect that the projects I design for Kenyan kids can also work for Ethiopian kids, especially, at their time of need. African kids in particular, but the African population in general, we've experienced a lot of pain throughout history. We need our own psychology, we need our own epistemology, our own practices, our own methods designed by Africans themselves that are going to help heal us from all that pain.
So far, we've worked with thousands of students and young people in Nairobi, in Kiambu, and now in Makueni County. We want to reach 1 million students in 5 years. We have established that the interventions that we have developed over the years actually work, but we want to take this a notch higher, and we want to hone in on mental health. We want to be known for mental health as Shamiri Institute. And so reaching 1 million youth is no mean task, but we want to do this by ensuring that mental health is personalized, it's accessible, it's affordable, but it's also entrenched in our healthcare system here in Kenya. So that's where we see ourselves in 5 years.
Great. So finally, I just want to thank all of you for your time and for being part of this webinar. As I mentioned, we will be posting snippets and recordings of this on our social media. feel free to reach out to us at careers@shamiri.institute or team@shamiri.institute if you have any questions. We will be sending a follow-up email later today or early tomorrow morning with some of the presentation that we did today, as well as some other insights from the Q&A session that came out. And we'll also be in that email giving out a giveaway. So look out for the email, which will be coming from Shamiri Institute, with a giveaway for all of you for attending this webinar today. If we don't have your email, please put it on the Google form link that we were using for the registration, so that we can keep you up to date with all the things which are happening here at Shamiri. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been really great, and wishing all of you a lovely rest of your week. Bye.